There is a crisis happening in the classrooms, and the teachers on the front lines are the ones sounding the alarm.
It's your boy, it's 520, man. Back with another video. This topic is about high school students graduating but cannot even read. Like Jeanette, I think it's Janae Daniels. Uh, I'm gonna put her basically her information under the description. So if y'all want to watch this video, y'all could do so. Um, please go to her channel, like, subscribe. She's a good creator. Um, this is my second video that me reacting to her video. So um, let's get to it then.
Arms.
So yesterday I came to the realization my students can't read.
I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on the 4th grade level.
When I tell you that these babies cannot read, they cannot write, and they cannot comprehend, I'm not being funny.
You know the thing kids go to school to do, like learn the fundamental skills used to go through everyday life? Yeah, that's not clicking anymore.
Vast majority of students that I teach in my class do not know how to read, write, comprehend, critical think. They just cannot.
And okay, it's easy to chop it up to the pandemic, maybe them damn phones, maybe the kids who never learned the basics were the first ones to multiply.
Everyone's always saying, oh, the kids are lost. Like, the kids don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they're so disrespectful, they have no social skills, they're just iPad kids times 1,000. Like, it's so bad, it's so awful.
Definitely. I think the first thing I would say, she said something about the kids that didn't know or didn't get the chance to learn a lot was the first to reproduce or to multiply, she said. That's one of a factor for real, because if you think about it, kids were raising kids, to be honest. And when you are a child yourself, how are you going to raise a child when it comes to actually teaching them the core values of life? Because normally it's supposed to be like an adult who went through the whole child process to teach the child, because they went through their own child process. But if you're a kid and you're learning yourself, it's like, how can you even, you know what I'm saying? How can you even teach the child? And then not only that, it's just like, what's the method that you're using? And sometimes in these households, the parents are also bad examples as well. So it's like the grandparents even you can't really trust. So yeah, if I would say anything, that's a big huge factor. 'Cause I remember even when I was in high school, there was a lot of people having kids, and it became a whole trend basically.
Yeah, because the hot Cheeto girls became parents first.
Regardless of the cause, the clock is still ticking. From kids to teens, almost young adults, they keep hitting more milestones. They keep absorbing content and trends meant for people twice their age, but their development isn't keeping up.
She wore a sahalat of clothes that were extraordinary, whatever, bro. She wore oh baby. She wore a silhouette of clothes that were, I don't know that word. I don't even know how to read. I don't know why.
I'm sure you've all seen the videos and the TikToks. Gen Alpha can't read, they don't play outside, brain rot, iPad kid. It's a conversation that's spiraling all over the internet. But in this video, we need to talk about the root cause of the crisis that no one else is discussing, and also how these kids were basically set up to fail.
Another thing that I would say that is a problem with the school system. I feel like nowadays the school do not they don't really care as much, you know. I think back then, even then when I was in middle school, like some teacher would say, "Hey, I get my check regardless." I remember I had a teacher that said something like that. Whether you pass or fail, I still get my money. So imagine now when it seems like everything is more politics than what it's supposed to be. You go watch a movie and you hear more politics in the movie than you are in the news or something. So, and I think schools something like that too, because I've heard times where the school like I heard something like the school is is basically hiding the fact that your kid have like doing the whole pronoun thing. Like they will change the whole kid's name and not tell you that the kids they changed their name. And I heard another thing about a teacher trying to put like a skirt on the kid or something like that. So yeah, I think they focusing more on the politics or the fact that kids are actually graduating. Um, I don't think they really focus on the schoolwork anymore, and I think that's why we seeing these kids that's they know everything about the internet, but yet when you ask them a question like what's the continent or something like that, they don't know what to say. I've seen videos where they ask those questions, and it was simple questions too. And then the kids do not know. They don't know what what's the answer to it. And it's very simple questions. And some of them are college kids. So what does that say?
From the jump. Welcome to the Girl Talk you didn't know you needed. Now, I'm not saying you have to subscribe. You're classy. I know you don't just give those away for free, but hopefully at the end of this video, we become bestie enough for you to take that next step. Now, considering we're talking about how important it is to be prepared for adult life, that also includes your finances. This video, there's a huge reason why the older generation looks at the current classroom situation and shakes their head. Most likely because they remember when the entire system was built to prepare kids for the heavy responsibilities of the world.
Bulwark of the American form of government is education. For true democracy can exist only among a people prepared from childhood for the responsibilities of citizenship.
Back in the day, these students were learning, but it went way past your basic math, okay? Sure, they learned how to read, right alongside learning how to manage a household and handle hands-on trades.
The two older children go to an LCC primary school. They learn not only from books, they also learn how to become good citizens able to earn their living. Girls, for instance, enjoy domestic science, boys carpentry, metalwork, and so on.
Look,
I totally think this method is the best. Why? Because the whole point is to teach the kids how to be an adult. Even my generation, certain things that I feel like we should have learned, like how to do your taxes, that I learned that in other places, like in New Jersey, they're teaching them that. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know that's like something that you would teach normally to high school kids, but it makes so much sense because why not? You're gonna need this information in the real world. Meanwhile, you having us like have these kind of like subjects or classes that most likely, unless you're gonna go to college and do this class like biology or like um calculus or something like that, you're not really using that in everyday life. Like you only gonna use that if you go to college and you do a certain job that's going to need this. in life you normally need just basic math. You need to know like how to read and write, of course, basic math. Like you don't really need to know biology too much unless you're trying to be a doctor or something. I feel like certain like to a degree, I feel like biology is still high school related, but I just feel like it's more college related because it's like what what would I be going to in the real world that biology is going to play a part unless we're talking about the basics, you know. But I'm talking about like trying to dissect stuff. Like, why would I need to know that? Am I gonna try to do this after school? What am I doing this for? Unless like I'm going to do a job that it kind of makes sense for you to know how to do these things. So it's like learning how to do your taxes is a thing that is going to be needed. But I've even me, it took me to be in my 30s to even try to learn how to do it because I'm tired of paying people to do it for me. So it's like certain things I think is necessary. You see them cooking in high school. They have like the workshops. I think these are important because you could take these little information and actually do something with it going forward in everyday life. Not like, oh, if I become a doctor or something. That's why biology came to play because now I'm a doctor. But what if I don't want to be a doctor? So I'm gonna be sitting through a class like and having to like this class. I need this class to graduate, and I'm not gonna do nothing with it past high school. That just don't make sense.
We all know schools back then were a lot more stricter than schools today. I'm pretty sure your grandparents have told you they used to beat us with rulers back in the day. And they weren't lying. The entire classroom was ran on a strict program and pure fear.
And the schools could be pretty strict. Students would sit politely on wooden benches for fear of caning.
Come up here this instant, you little upstart. I'll show you who's teaching this class.
Now, with me showing you all of those clips, I'm not saying we need to go back to the 1950s. For obvious reasons. I'm also not trying to prove that kids back in the day were any better than kids today. I really just want to show you how much the bar for academics, discipline, and just the expectations for a child to keep up in general has been lowered. The old school system used to operate on something way bigger than the standard things you'd expect children to learn. They taught them the huge responsibility of handling themselves, meaning they were forcing them to look at their own actions, fix, and then learn from then on.
Hank, I can teach you how to punctuate and spell and how to write themes, but more important, you must learn to face responsibility. While you're a student at Lincoln High, it's your job to know what the lesson is, how it's to be done, and when it's expected. I can't make you responsible. That you have to do for yourself. That's all, Hank. Thank you.
Apparently you can go from 0 to a complete site in just a single prompt with Wix Harmony. I don't know if this is going to be possible. Or vibe coding meets drag and drop freedom. We'll see about that. All right, let me try to make up a site to sell some like theoretical kombucha. Make me a site about kombucha. Make it look nice.
Like that teacher said, she can teach her kids how to read, write, and punctuate. But the real magic had to do with them building the habits, the discipline, and the focus that allowed them to even succeed academically in the first place.
But when we go to the library,
And this is why I think phones, I don't think kids should have phones to a point. I think certain things like for example, right? I was bad as a child. That led me to not get like games and stuff like that. I started playing games when I was like like video games when I was in like middle school. I didn't have video games as a child. I didn't have like too much toys because I kept breaking them, and I was bad in school, so I wasn't getting gifts for being bad. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is that I became more creative because I had nothing else to do but to basically think of being creative. It got to the point where I end up playing, and I'm basically creating either the story or I'm creating the characters out of like paper and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to say is like nowadays kids have so much information and so much because the internet is all up in their face that creativity go out the window. They don't know how to even sit down for a minute and like stay still, let alone like know how to really create. Everything is like pretty much the same in a way, or it's like just like bad behavior being tolerated or trendy. You know what I'm saying? When even with like some YouTube creators, like the younger ones, it's like their craft is not really creative. It's just it goes to a certain audience that are basically laughing or they cool with the behavior or the misbehavior that they see them like putting out. If you look at the young creators, they're just yelling, screaming, kicking around. They doing everything that like a young kid that's out of control would do. That's not creativity to me. That's just I mean, you're giving people what they want because some of them become rich off of it, right? But this is not creative, you know? And I'm not saying this every young YouTuber, by the way. I'm just saying that some of them is just like if you really watch it, it's like you just doing bad shit. You just being bad. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like internet unplugging your kids and like shoving like worksheets and like making sure that you're part of their learning as well instead of like just saying the school got them is going to help the kids a lot because one, they're gonna learn how to be creative, and two, they'll be actually learning because I doubt they're learning in school, especially if you can't read. Like if you can't read and you're about to graduate, the teacher's not doing nothing.
Library. We are very quiet because we know it's the room where we read to ourselves. And you know, we have found that knowing when to be quiet is a part of growing up.
If we wanted to look at it how it looks, these kids were trained.
Stand up, young man. Are you a Negro, Travis?
No.
Are you a flunky, Travis?
No.
What are you?
I am black and beautiful.
And what else are you? Are you a boy?
No.
What are you?
Oh, man.
Think about it like the school day being an exercise for their mental endurance and a way to make sure that they were ready for that high standard already expected out of them. Of course, they were taught the basics, but they were also taught how to think critically, retain information, and just make sure their lives were organized.
Bert helped me draw up a homework schedule that lists my subjects, the assignments, when they were made, and when they're due. I'm also learning to schedule my time a little better. So before starting any assignment, I read through and check my notes as carefully as possible. I'm finding out that the better I understand an assignment, the better I can do it.
These kids were learning time management and how to structure their responsibilities without anyone having to hold their hand. With this foundation set and being in an environment that required that strict mental discipline, the students had no other option but to lock in. A noisy classroom may be annoying today, but back in the day, it was honestly viewed as a complete failure to the learning environment.
Creators, take these 3 apps I built to run my business made with Base 44. They're ready for you as
It looks as if everyone is busy at work, but it's so noisy. Sometimes children drop things on the floor. They call across the room and talk out loud. You couldn't learn very much here, and you couldn't be proud to be part of such a noisy room, could you?
They were expected to sit completely still and be mentally engaged for hours. They went out of their way to stay on top of their workload and didn't miss a single note. And if they did, they went straight to the source to get it right.
Miss Jackson, I'm sorry, but I didn't get the complete assignment for tomorrow. There was so much noise in the hall.
I know, and I'm sorry. It's chapters 9 and 10. Read them and be ready to discuss them tomorrow.
Chapters 9 and 10. Read and be ready to recite in class, as we have been doing. Is that it?
That's it. And I promise not to wait until the end of the period to make the assignment next time.
Thank you.
When you think about it, school was looked at as the first place that set you up to be a functioning citizen of the world. Society expected these young people to transition into adulthood immediately after graduation. You got the diploma, the baby was already on the way. You threw the graduation cap off your head and they were ready to throw you into the war next. A lot of these students were planning on going straight to college, potentially starting a family or going to war, but the first place they had to stop was school.
Yes, high school first. You need it for life in service and afterwards. You need the courses: algebra, civics, English, history, and all the rest. You need the activities and all the other things that go on around here. Things that help prepare you for life.
Now, if you're looking at these perfectly polished students and you're thinking this is way too good to be true, you're valid. Kids will always be kids, okay? From 1942 to 2022, they're all the same. And no matter how much you try to mold them into a little adult, that urge to act up, lose focus, be distracted, test boundaries, on and on, that will always be in their blood.
Oh, try
What's this? What kind of behavior do you call this? Wait a minute, you say where you are. This is the kind of behavior I might have expected of you. All I do is leave the room for a few minutes, and what do I find? Confusion, disorder. And you, what were you doing?
I was just going...
Going to what? Throw the eraser, I suppose. It's a good thing I caught you. I'll make an example out of you.
But
That's enough out of you. Leave this room and report to the principal's office immediately.
Schools already understood that children will naturally be children, but they also believed that natural children impulses weren't an excuse for bad behavior or poor performance. And even the students knew the expectations and the rules clearly, but staying focused obviously didn't come as natural to all.
You know, I feel another thing is, I felt it was a part where she said that if a kid fails, it was seen as failure, like the teacher failed. I think one thing that the school should do or bring back is that, like, if your classroom cannot like do certain things, read a certain level, and they're not like in a certain class that is supposed to be like that, they should look at the teacher, because what are you doing? Especially in the middle of the year. It's like, what are you doing? If they don't know exactly what's going on, you're the teacher. Something something gotta be like something gotta be done about that. I feel like holding the teachers accountable for their class could make the teacher want to do, like, basically teach better, right? And I feel like a lot of times is I'm not gonna say a lot of times the teacher, sometimes it's the kids, but it's like sometimes it's the way the teacher teaches.
Class, for example.
If you understand, different people learn different ways, but when you're in the classroom, the teacher teaches the way that they teach. And the good thing about that is like, as long as it's clear, everybody should be able to be follow what she's trying to say. But the difference is that not everybody have the same attention span, but two, learn the same way. And I think teachers need to be patient when a kid comes to them and they need help. So I do think the teachers need to be held accountable for their classroom not being able to, well, read. That's just, to me, that's just impossible. And I don't even know how they got away with that.
I know the rules. One is that to get the most out of a subject, you must follow the classwork. But I've gotten into the habit of letting my mind wander to other things.
Either way, the students couldn't let
That would
those
happen for
distractions start
real.
affecting them academically, because that's when the pressure that not a lot of modern kids today have to worry about, might I add, starts kicking in. If you couldn't stay on track, couldn't keep up, or care to, you could be left behind, literally.
Most of you have no foundation at all. Now the trouble's with your attitude. You don't pay enough attention in class. You don't do enough work outside of it. You don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea. Don't you realize that mathematics is an important subject? I tell you right now that unless you get over your lazy habits and come up to the standards I've set for this class, many of you will have the pleasure of repeating this course next semester.
Having to repeat a course or repeat a grade, that was the ultimate consequence, the ultimate punishment, and something that failed a lot of kids.
I remember, like, going to summer school and being left back. Those were the worst thing a student would want. Like, you wouldn't want to go to summer school. It's only the baddest kids. Like, they act like they don't care, but you're, instead of going out and enjoying your summer, you're going to school. You know, the one place you don't want to go throughout the year, you're having extra school time. Ain't no kid want that. That and go and getting left behind, like having friends in that grade and then being in the same school or not even in the same school and realize you just been left behind, especially if you're in the same school, because seeing their friends, they on the higher grade and they doing something completely different from yours. You're not seeing them as much, and then, like, behind your mind, like, in the back of your head, you're thinking like, man, they really left me. You know what I'm saying? Some kids, they act like they don't care about it. I feel like they actually do. I used to remember, like, throughout the, like, near the end of the year, that was my fear. Am I gonna get everything done so I don't get left behind or go to summer school? That was always my fear. Even though, like, in high school, I actually went to summer school, but it was like literally for a day. I literally went. I had to do one, like, redo a essay. I went to school, did it over. They got checked. It was good. I went home.
It's with embarrassment. But I want to note this, okay? There is nothing wrong with letting a child know, hey, you don't understand this, so let's slow down and get you caught up. But were the teachers and that strict standards back in the day letting these kids down that
I also got
easily?
left back
No.
too.
So instead of
Only
keeping
one
that
step.
high bar and pushing students to reach it, the system would eventually decide it was much easier to just lower the bar altogether. But before we get into that, the reality of that old school strict standard started to show some cracks. They were forcing students into an environment of strict discipline and holding them up to a huge standard, which for some students, it turned out to be the best approach. But for other students, it had an opposite effect. So, traveling from the 40s, 50s, and 60s earlier mindset and getting a bit less vintage, people started realizing that not every student was thriving under that strict keep up or get left behind environment. And as a result, high school dropout rates across the country started increasing and fast.
The dropout problem is a tremendous problem nationwide.
Does anyone have an idea as to why, Rebecca?
Well, there are many reasons that research points out that a reason why students are dropping out. One reason is because of low self-esteem, and because students are just not motivated like they should be, or like they used to be in the past.
For decades, if a student dropped out or they failed a grade, society just viewed it as a personal failure. They fell behind, they couldn't keep up, oh well, that's on them. If a child couldn't keep up academically, the system often just kept moving without them.
The pattern these students would take in these schools was very routine, very predictable, very efficient, like a factory. So the basic story is they would come into high school, many multiple years behind grade level. Many of them would fail their courses. The school system would say, well, try again under the same circumstances. They might do a short time in an alternative school and then drop out. And to us, that seemed very routine, very factory-like.
And eventually, more and more students started mentally checking out of the education system entirely. But by the
I just want to talk about the fact when it was like, if you don't, one day they view your failures as a personal failure and not like as a failure all around. That's true. And two, that they keep moving even though that you're not, moving along with them. The system like literally is just like throwing these kids in the blender, and whoever comes out comes out. Like however you come out, you come out. And it's true because I was put in like special ed, right? Um for bad behavior. I was it was hard for me to stay like I guess it was hard for me to stay still or stuff, something like I would always get in trouble, basically, right? So when they had put me there, I did end up getting out. I was smart. I was smart. Um, I was too smart for the class, but um, the time that I was actually there, they put me there for bad behavior because in the previous class I just was acting up. And the reason why I think that's wrong because one I don't think it's wrong to have like those type of classes because some kids they need those classes to be on a slower pace so that they could learn, right? But I don't think that you should put a kid in there because of bad behavior. It has nothing to do with education. It has nothing to do with like the lack of understanding. And that was the problem because when I was in the class, one I was just too smart for it. You know what I'm saying? When I end up getting like better at school and I got to the point where I was doing my work and I was doing the stuff. I was just too smart for it to the point my teacher in the fourth grade just like, no, you can't be here, right? And by fifth grade, I was already out of it and got into a AP class. So it had nothing to do with my education, but the fact that I was being bad, right? And they didn't know how to pretty much um deal with that. They just chose not to. And I feel that because it's like, to a point, you could be a kid that just need that extra help, or you just need that patience. Just need patience, and the teacher is just like, nah, I'm not dealing with it. And I was in the class where a fellow student was being bad and got sent to the special ed class in my middle school, just like that, for like, it wasn't even to the point that she was like messing up the class. It's just that she was, I think, like think she would just talk back or something like that and be sassy. I don't like, she wasn't running around like doing crazy stuff and disrupting the class. She was just bad. Like, she was talk back. She would get into like I guess a back and forth with the teacher, and she was sent to the special ed just because of that. It had nothing to do with her work. It had nothing to do with education. It was just like, I'm not dealing with it. You're gonna go to that class now, and I don't think that's fair.
1980s, the government realized this individual problem was turning into a national one. They created a report that made it clear that the individual problem of a student failing has now turned into a national one that was threatening the country's future.
The Nation at Risk report really caused all of us to take a hard look in the mirror and understand how much work we had to do with our students. And it was really a clarion call for action.
This is back to the early 1980s, the early Reagan administration. The U.S. Secretary of Education at the time, Ted Bell, said, we need to get a blue ribbon group together to take stock of how we're doing as a country in education. And by 1983, they had come up with this blockbuster of a report.
Let me put this into perspective for you, because this isn't just about students failing anymore. Economically, high school dropouts were earning way less than students with a diploma, and that doesn't make them a failure per se, except maybe in the eyes of the government. They were technically paying less in federal and income taxes because they were making less, meaning also they were much more likely to depend on government assistance programs. Billions of dollars were being lost, and the United States was actively falling behind more disciplined nations.
A Nation at Risk was a report that really was a wake-up call for our country.
A Nation at Risk called out the poor performance of American students. A Nation at Risk was really using a sort of national competitiveness argument, really made the case that our underperformance in education was a threat to the nation.
They started to realize that large groups of students failing and dropping out was affecting the economy, the workforce, and just the country's reputation. And y'all know one thing about the United States, they love to be in first place. They love to compete. So this was a competition to them. And now they needed a way to save the country's reputation. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to save the children. Of course. Eventually, the government stepped in and created a system that would change classrooms forever.
It's time to come together to get it done so that we can truthfully say in America, no child will be left behind.
The president's nearly $48 billion education plan includes testing children annually to more closely monitor reading and math skills, rewarding schools where grades improve, and punishing failing schools by cutting federal money to districts that don't show progress.
Now, on paper, this sounded like the perfect solution. Every student deserved the opportunity to learn and academically succeed. But once schools became responsible for the result of their success, things inside the education system started to get a bit more complicated. Because let's be real, the finger was now pointed at them.
Can a child read at grade level? And if the answer is yes, we all say, great. If the answer is no, the answer question will be, then what are you going to do about it?
To prevent these schools from looking like they were failing on paper, because now it looks like this. If the school fails, then the government fails. You see what's happening? Schools became more focused on testing and performance scores, graduation statistics. Teachers were under pressure, schools were under pressure, the government was under pressure, the districts were under pressure. Everybody was trying to avoid being the one labeled as failing. And to avoid that label, don't get me wrong, schools were still holding kids back, a lot of them actually. The complete irony is, under a system called No Child Left Behind, schools were leaving a lot of them behind because they wanted to force those test grades before moving them forward. And in the end, the only one that ended up failing was the student that passed through.
That in No Child Left Behind, essentially what it was telling states was really set low bars, or write easy tests, or set low standards that you call proficiency because you stay out of trouble under the law, you get even more money, and everybody comes out looking good except for the kids who actually are no better educated than they were before the law.
You have a real life girlfriend.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, because the kids are there to be educated, and they're only being educated to actually help them be good civilians. If they're not educated, how is that gonna help them when it comes to getting a job? How is that gonna help them when it comes to being an adult? You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point of school, and the fact that it's blurred like that, it just doesn't make sense. You're doing everything you can just to make yourself look good. Meanwhile, all the kids cannot read, they can't pronounce, they don't know their one plus ones. Like, what is that? It's like you're doing everything that you can to make sure the kids don't succeed.
A real life wife.
Now, at this point, a lot of you may be thinking, this is the problem, okay? The kids aren't being left behind. The kids aren't being held back. Because in theory, if a child isn't absorbing anything within their grade level, just let them try it again. Easy, right? Problem solved. Not really. On one hand, it's boosting the child's academic growth, yes, but on the other hand, it can completely stunt that child's social growth. And schools eventually realized this.
Holyoke has some of the highest rates of children who have to repeat the school year in Massachusetts. About 25% of children are held back.
They are much more likely to drop out. They are much more likely to experience behavioral difficulties. They are much more likely to have low self-esteem.
So what are the schools gonna do now? They couldn't hold them back, but they couldn't let them fail. If you can't push the kids to meet the standards, then push the standards down to meet the kids. Schools were looking for a way to make learning easier for the kids, and that was right around the time when technology was starting to take over the world. Now we're seeing a digital shift where things like typing on a keyboard became a greater priority than learning how to write cursive.
Don't judge a book by its cover, and don't judge a class by its title. In this summer writing workshop, students aren't writing, they're typing. It's the way of the world and the classroom. Computers are key. Cursive is nearly obsolete.
School.
You see, they know everything they gotta know about the technologies, the internet, you know what I'm saying? But yet they don't know how to write the names. Now I'm just playing. But I remember when I had to learn cursive, I forgot how to write cursive, but I'm gonna need to learn that again. But when I was a kid, I actually learned how to write all my letters in cursive, and I think that's something that should be brought back, because I think you do need it. It's just a good style of writing altogether. Um, and learning how to read cursives too. I knew, even now I still kind of know how to read it, because sometimes it looks a little bit like all over the place. But yeah, I remember I had to learn how to write my name in cursive and all of that. So now you just put a computer screen in their face and then just type it. They like learning how to write. I remember like when you was in like school or preschool or something like that, pre-K, when they teaching you how to write in a line. What are they doing nowadays? If like writing itself is could becoming obsolete, what are they doing nowadays? They just giving them a phone and tell them to type, and then while they get older, they give them a laptop and tell them to type the next few sentences. It seems like the school is doing whatever they can to grow, but also to not help the kids succeed at the same time. It's like it's crazy how in 2026 it's crazy like in 2026 that the schools that should be getting better, not only like in how many kids succeed, but also in like how many kids are growing from the school, and it should be better than the prior years, but yet it seems like it's getting worse. It seems like it's getting worse. So I think it says a lot about the school system, the board of education, all of that.
Schools not teaching kids cursive anymore might have been the downfall of it all, because what do you mean you're not teaching kids how to sign their name? Signing your name, you have to sign documents and contracts and I digress. All of those years of lowering standards and basically letting technology do the heavy lifting, it was basically hiding the fact that kids were still falling behind, but behind a screen. So when the pandemic hit, and when they actually had to start learning behind a screen, we couldn't be surprised when the whole system collapsed.
Well, schools staying closed, it's going to have a huge impact all over our region. That's what we're hearing from school officials across our area. He thinks there's going to be a learning gap.
I'm afraid that when it's all said and done, that we will be behind, that many of our kids will be behind, and some much more behind than others.
The pandemic and online learning, it did cause a lot of issues, but it didn't create the problems out of thin air. It just took the reading and the behavioral issues that were already bubbling, and it just brought them to a boil. A lot of people blamed the lockdowns, and they just assumed that students would bounce back once schools reopened, but then schools reopened and they didn't bounce back.
Math and reading scores have dropped to their lowest levels in.
That's because they're used to the internet. Around the time of corona, like the coronavirus, everybody was on their phones. Everybody was on the internet. That's why certain people they blew up over the coronavirus thing, because everybody was home. Everybody was on their phone and on the internet. So now you're trying to get them back into like regular schools. That ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna blame the school for what happened with the coronavirus, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think even before then that like they was doing their thing. And I would say I'm thinking nowadays is like it feels like school are getting shorter. Like the school time, I be seeing kids outside way before 3 o'clock, and it's like I remember when I used to have to wait until 3 to even get out of there. And I see kids coming out like 2 something, 1 something. I see kids outside. I'm like, what? Why is kids outside already? You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't know what it is, and I don't know if because I'm an adult now. It seems like kids always having some form of break, some form of holiday. It's always like, okay, it's this day today, it's that day. we not going to school for the whole weekend. We not going to school for 3 months. I'm like, what? I don't know if about the 3 months. I probably over exaggerate that one, but it's like it gets to a point where like I'm thinking back. I'm like, was it like that? 'Cause I always feel like I had so many times I'm going to school over the times that I'm not. And nowadays I'm seeing kids they have more times that they don't go to school than they do. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping.
More than 2 decades among high school seniors.
Student achievement has continued to decline significantly since the pandemic. What's worse, nearly a third of seniors did not have the basic reading skills needed to find the details in a given text to understand its meaning.
Which gets us to where we are today. I see it, you see it. There is an academic crisis happening among us. And that no child left behind thing we talked about earlier, teachers are coming online and saying that's the exact reason why.
So the kids who should have been left behind are now parents of the kids where every student succeeds. The kids who should have been left behind have now made it that every student succeeds because they were failures in school. No shade.
Teachers, go ahead and put the zeros in the grade book. Just go ahead and put the zeros because y'all been offering recovery work since August. And then I'm getting a million emails, baby, give them the zero. Because I don't even recall us getting this many chances when I was in school.
New to me, but I'm scrolling through the comments from that video and it's full of teachers saying, we try to, but admin doesn't allow us. We can't put a 0, we have to put a 50. And also, if we put zeros, they just pass them to the next grade. All of those years of the government and school boards faking the data to keep graduation numbers high have basically created this loophole where students are failing forward. And when I say failing forward, I mean teachers having to.
I remember they have something like this in the show The Wire, where they were doing the same thing when it came to the school. They wanted to basically show that the school is progressing. Meanwhile, the students weren't. It got to the point that the students don't even have to be in school for long. They just had to be in school for like once a month type thing. And the school was okay with that. Like, as long as they had them once a month, like present, they're cool. They don't have to come to school for the rest of the month. That's how bad it was. But the numbers shows that the school is progressing. Meanwhile, the kids are not learning nothing. It's crazy. And they doing that just for the money.
To teach 3rd grade math to students who are 3 school years away from graduation.
I teach high school, and I just put a 4.5 foot by 4.5 foot multiplication chart on my wall because my students, bless their poor 9th grade hearts, were in 3rd grade when COVID happened. They do not know their multiplication facts. They just don't. So instead of shaming them, I'm gonna just put the chart on the wall. I'm gonna just put it on the wall.
And the school expects them to do high school work, even if they're missing the basics of everything within it. So they're in their right grade level, but they can't read on it.
So yesterday I came to the realization my students can't read. That is the tragic truth. They're not going to read because they don't understand what they're reading. They don't want to struggle, and I get that. But at the same time, they're not going to get better either. So it's like a catch-22.
And they can't catch up because they can't read the material, but they can't learn the material until they catch up. It's a doozy. And some of the students, yes, they do know how to read. They try their best. They just can't comprehend.
This is when the parents come into it. Like, I get it. The school is supposed to teach the children, but the parents also supposed to teach the children. The parents' job is to make sure the child grows up into being a functional adult. Learning how to read and write is one of those things. And I know a lot of like parents, they just be like, no, I'm gonna just send them to school, and the school is supposed to learn, teach them how to read and write. But I think the parents need to teach them that too. You get what I'm saying? We can't just blame everything on COVID or the teachers when your kid cannot read, because that's also a reflection of your teaching if they cannot read at their own level. Because what are you doing at home? Why are you not teaching them at home? Why are you not paying attention to what they're doing at home? Meanwhile, if you tell them what's on YouTube, they know what exactly was going on YouTube. It's crazy.
And anything else after that.
The colonel asked the choir to accommodate the governor's schedule.
What does that mean?
But he's asking the choir to accommodate to the governor's schedule, right?
Yeah, in your own words.
Colonel is asking the choir to accommodate to it.
In your own words.
I don't know, bro.
The colonel asked the choir to accommodate the governor's schedule.
What does that mean?
He asked the choir to accommodate. I don't know.
As we can all see, that mental endurance from the past is not being taught anymore, because how are they able to learn the information but they can't put pen to paper? It's like they're being trained to learn the information, pass the test, and then great, they did it. But then they don't even understand what they just did.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why children are not able to retain information anymore. Like, we just spent 3-4 weeks practicing.
Because of the internet. They learning thing on short, like basically on shorts. That's so fast that they don't even what they learning on YouTube shorts and stuff like that. They're not really comprehending it fully. It's just like, okay, what's next? You feel me? And they are so like, it's like, remember the days when there was commercial? Even though we didn't like it, what commercial did, it gave us that pause. We had to watch what we're watching, then pause and wait, and then watch it again. But kids nowadays, they could just skip. You know what I'm saying? They could just skip the entrance. I mean, the intro. They could just skip the outro. They could just, skip into where they're trying to go, for they could get to where they're going fast. But when you do that, it's just like you don't know you don't know the art of the patience. The same thing when it comes to these internet, when you're watching YouTube shorts. It's not about the information itself. It's just like you're taking in information. You're watching something, but you're not understanding it. So the same thing for learning. It's like you could take in the information, but if you don't understand what the information is, it's basically pointless. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that. It's like there's an art to having to wait a week to watch the next episode, or having to wait until the commercial are finished to continue watching your show. And sometimes it happens back to back, because you have to wait like while you're watching the show, and then you have to wait next week for the next episode. It's like, I remember I used to hate those days. I used to love the fact that streaming is able to. I could just like go to where I'm trying to go fast. But at the end of the day, it takes something away. It takes that patience that you would normally have when you have to wait, and then it replaces it with like you need things fast. And it's just like with education, you can't learn anything at a fast pace. You could take in information at a fast pace, but you're not learning anything at a fast pace. Learning, it takes time. Learning, you have to keep going over and over and trying to get what you're trying to understand. Even me sometimes, like if I'm reading something, I could read it fast, but I don't understand what I just read sometimes because I was being fast. So I had to go back and try to like reread and see like, hold up, what was said? Oh, okay. I had to go back and try to figure it out sometimes. Sometimes when I'm reading the Bible and I had to read fast, like the chapter fast, maybe I don't have time. And I just had to read fast. What I would do, I would also play on Audible while I'm going to work or something, which what I did before I got to work today. I had to put it on Audible and then listen to it again. That way I could understand like certain things that I just breezed through. I could understand what was going on. And I think with these kids, they need to be taught slow because when it comes to the internet, everything is so fast. And they don't really have to understand the information that they're taking in. They just need to take in information. If you look at TikTok and all of the other stuff, is like you're not obtaining information with those little short few minutes videos. You're not taking in like information. You're not dissecting nothing. You're just okay, next video. Oh, that's funny, next video. It's like what you like is they call it doom scrolling for a reason.
Practicing, rehearsing, to going over the lessons, doing worksheets, doing whiteboard work, small group, whole group, repeat it again. And then we come to the test. And I got kids looking at me like, I don't know what to do. Yo, we just spent all this time and you retained nothing?
Retaining information is a skill. It's a lost skill now, and it takes a lot of focus and discipline. But now, kids don't really have to do that at all. The whole day is mapped out step by step with iPads and apps telling you exactly what to do, what to click, where to look next. Platforms like Canvas and Google Classroom basically handle the tracking for them. It lays out every single task in an easy to follow list. No critical thinking necessary. So instead of thinking through a problem, it becomes a habit to just sit back and wait for the next command.
Kids do not know how to take tests. They ask me so many questions whenever they take a test. And they're not like, can you read this to me? It is, I don't get what it's asking me. Can you help me with this? We have been so used to helping kids that they don't know how to do it on their own. And that is a problem. We are raising an entire generation to be spoon-fed what to do next.
But we can't even blame the children because we're literally living in an automated world where a device retains all of our information for us. This is what I believe to be the root issue. It started in the earlier days with the rise of the internet, school boards just wanting to be fresh and hip and up to date. So we had classes dedicated to teaching us how to use computers. At least I did. And y'all, I was so stressed trying to make sure that my keyboard speed time was up because my teacher was like, you need to learn how to type on a keyboard. You need to learn. Like, I didn't understand at the time why computers were so important. I mean, of course, now they run everything. They gave us Chromebooks. We started taking all of our tests on them. Everything education included a screen.
Chromebooks. The Chromebooks ruined education.
And I think that's the problem too. I think them putting the computers in the face of the kids were a problem. Like, I had like a computer lab, I remember, but like in high school, like that was in like elementary, I think. In high school, by the time I got to high school, we had like a compartment where the laptops were. And I don't know if it was every class, but we had like a thing that was full of laptops. So when it's time to get like work into laptops, we had to go through them. I mean, go in it, take the laptop out, and then we start the lesson. But I think that's one of the problems too, because that just causes problems. One of the problem is the fact that when you're learning, I think learning is the same as boredom, right? Everybody says like in order for you to be creative, you have to be bored, right? That's why I watch some videos and they will say, right, and I think it's true because once you're bored, your mind start working, right? So the same thing for school. Once you're at a spot where you have to just think, then your mind is going to be working. It's going to start working. But the thing is, when you have so much things being put in your face and thrown in your face, like what the internet would do, it's just too much, right? You need a moment where you could learn something, and all you're doing is learning that something, not learning how to text, not learning how to do the learning how to do like Microsoft. Also, while you're learning how to do the education, just take away the laptops, teach them how to do the work, and have them do the work by themselves before they start asking for help. I remember I used to ask for help too, but the teachers never used to sit there and spoon feed me information. It was always like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna show the example over again. And even then, you could go to the teacher and ask for help, but it would never be like they're holding your hand. Like they'll give you that chance for you to figure it out. And I think that's something else that the teacher need to do. Then you need to let them sit and stew in that information, and hopefully that'll be a better result. I feel like it would be. But I do remember as I got older in school, the laptop became a lot more of the way to do the work. And I think that was one of the things that caused this problem. That and um, the government focusing on the school's progression and not the kids' progression. And I also think that like certain classes, like special ed, so that I think it's good to have only because they're teaching the kids on a slower pace, and I think some kids need to be learned on that pace because they don't learn as fast as other kids, and I feel like it could work for them. And without it, I guess without it being called special ed, because I know you could get like you could get bullied for that, but other than that, it's like okay, this need to be done, and I feel like the teachers need to be held accountable for their class, especially if it's like a reoccurring thing, like it happens the first year and then the next year is happening again. I feel like the teacher need to be held responsible for the way they teach their class. At least have somebody, like if they feel like the teacher's not doing good enough, at least have somebody come and supervise and see what's wrong with the way she's teaching or he's teaching. Um, but that'll be all for this one. I'm gonna stop it here. Please like, comment, subscribe,